Good evening and welcome to Dog Talk. I'm Dan Camilleri.
And I'm Laura McKillop. We'd like to start by thanking Enduro for their ongoing support in bringing you our live weekly Q&A. Tonight we're fortunate enough to be speaking with Gavin Carr from Cardoon Genetics.
Gav will be picking who he thinks has asked the best question of the night, and they will win a bag of Enduro high energy food for working dogs with real kangaroo meat.
Hey Gav, how you going?
Yeah, good guys.
That's the way. How's your day been?
Awesome.
That's the way.
What did you get up to today, buddy?
Bit of concreting.
Concreting? What were you concreting?
Some posts in, mate.
Oh,
So, yeah,
a tough one.
lighting a few fires and that. So, yeah, an interesting week.
You guys getting much rain up there?
Not for the last few weeks, but it has been a wet winter, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, and any more forecasted?
Oh, possibly. I don't look too close.
Keeps you happier sometimes when it's raining like it is down here.
Yeah.
Very cool, mate. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do, where you've come from?
Yeah, Gavin Carr from Mandubra. So we've Cardoon working dogs, and I work for James and Alex O'Neill at Doon. So I've been based there maybe the last 13 or 15 years, possibly, working for them guys. And I've been with them guys sort of off and on doing the branding since year 10 back in 98. So they're really, so they're very close to me, yeah. And so that's where I've been for a long time. And between sort of there, like I'll go and do odd jobs and stuff, and little challenges here and there, weaner breaking and stuff like that. Probably in the last 12 months with kids and that, I've definitely slowed back. This year I've sort of pulled the pin on a few little jobs and that, just can't do everything. So a little bit more demanding maybe, like at Doon, just can't keep up. But it definitely challenging the dogs and stuff by stepping outside, my comfort zone at Doon and going and doing those outside jobs to see, where we sit and what's going on and how we can improve and stuff like that. So, and then before Doon, I guess it's just been in the west and north, and I haven't worked in New South Wales yet. I never got across the border, so
not a bad thing.
Hey,
not a bad thing. Depends where.
I did skip New South Wales. I crossed through to Melbourne. I worked in Melbourne for 6 months. That was pretty cool.
What were you doing down there?
I was actually working on Charlotte's Web, the movie. So
yeah, wow.
Yeah.
What were you there?
Yeah. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, it was a 6-day-a-week sort of job, and got a phone call and went down as an animal attendant, and then sort of helped the trainers and that on set, and I was down there for 6 months. So
wow.
It was pretty good, yeah.
I'm glad I asked why now.
I ended up out of it, so they blew one up. Yeah, that's what her name was. She done the bit where the pigs danced in the rain, so she's no longer around now. So that was some time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's real cool. Where'd you grow up, mate?
In Mandubra. Yep.
Yeah, okay. So been there a long time, nearly a local.
Just about. Yeah. No, I actually grew up in town. So we grew up in town. I got a twin brother, Sean. Yeah.
Yep.
And 3 sisters and that. And we grew up in town in Flinders Street, believe it or not. So, and we had nothing to do with cattle or anything really. And then we got a couple of potty calves, and they're in the backyard. And Soxy and Curly. That was Sean. Sean had the Friesian and I had the Murray Grey Cross. And that's where it all started. And then we went through, skipping house to house with Mum, and then James and Alex got hold of us in 98 to push calves up. We actually never knew them at the time, and the butcher, Timmy Duggan, he put us, James onto us to push calves up the brand, and he took us under under his wing and Alex and sort of probably been mentors and, you know, yeah. And then we got sort of started in the dogs and stuff and went forward and probably never had much purpose, you know, where we were going or me in general, where I was going and stuff. You know, you got ideas and stuff and that sort of, that was where we got started and then went to Longridge Pastoral College and that was awesome. So done 2 years there and then went back and done a 6-month horse breaking course with John Arnold. So that was really good spending time with John. And it's probably a shame that they sort of closed those ag colleges down now. I think it's sad. Yeah, so for what that gave us was amazing. Since I never come out of school with a trade, I didn't do really well at school at all, and I didn't come out with a trade or anything like that. So to be able to go and, you know, go to Longridge and step into something you enjoy, you know, that's probably when life really started to begin and, you know, growing as a person and learning really started probably around then. So yeah, no, good times. Yeah. And met a lot of really good friends and that out of college, really close. Like I've got a good mate, Steely Canal. He's he's still one of my best mates today, and we talk probably weekly.
Yeah.
I got him in the dogs too, so I gave him a dog for his wedding present. Best dog he ever owned. And, he'll probably tell you that. And then so that it's been good like that, the connections and stuff through college. I was at a bull sale the other day and you know, just looked around the arena and there's 2 people I went to college with there. So, you know, that's you build a lot of connections and stuff and move forward, eh?
And so where did you get your first dog from? If you coming from in town, sort of how'd you obviously you got in the car and
we had a few Chihuahuas growing up in town. Had a dog called Woodrow. He was like a Ridgeback sort of dog. Had a Staffy called Levi. So the love for dogs is always there. Had a dog called Possum. And but yeah, the working dog side of things would have Sean probably, I think Sean went and got one. Yeah, Sean went and bought 2 dogs, one for me and one for himself. So he bought Nikki and I got Sarah off Clinton Hall. Yeah. And I'm really good friends with Clinton, you know, to this day. That was a long time ago. And we were at Malungra and I broke my ankle and had to finish up, come home, and then Sean rang up Clinton and we got 2 dogs sent down and then we went to Edward Dent and I got a bitch off Edward Dent called Sky and she was an amazing dog. She never bred on real well, but got one out of it that was not too bad, but it just wasn't real consistent breeding wise, but one of the best dogs I ever had. And so that's probably where, you know, a few trials and that started to come through with Edward, the connection with Edward Dent, because his daughter's married to Warren Bate and he's a really close friend of mine, and he's, you know, I regard him as one of the best dogmen around, stockman sort of thing, and a quiet achiever, just a gentleman really. And and just started tracking him around a bit and done a few trials and sort of really enjoyed it. So so Sarah would probably be the first one, and I wouldn't say she was great. She just filled a gap.
Yeah,
she was all right. I taught her a few tricks when I come back from Melbourne. She was like a bit of a trick dog and stuff like that. So I had probably more fun teaching her tricks, to be honest. Yeah.
And did you guys know Clinton before that?
Clinton Hall? No, I wouldn't say so. I'm just not sure how we come about. Yeah, we ended up working for Clinton after that. Went contracting up at So we went from college, went to Malunga under Wally McDonald, and in the station camp. And Wally he planted the seed really. Yeah, he was the one. He had a lot of Crowsdale bred dogs, and that's where it probably started because Wally would take the time out for us with he had a little training mob with Brahman bulls and we'd put them on the airstrip and he'd write down the commands on our hands and stuff like that, and then get Astro out, and we thought we were telling the dog what to do, and really the dog was just really balancing and bringing the cattle to us. But Wally was, now look back, Wally was just a smart man, and he was just planting the seed and encouraging us and stuff like that. And then sort of went out to, I remember going out to the farm camp with Ronnie Wall, and I seen Ron put a weaner in the yards there at the farm, and I was just amazed, this Kelpie dog, and he just said round over whatever and put it in, and it was just one straggler out on the side, and I just remember sitting there going, it's pretty cool. That's amazing. And then, then while we were out there, actually, we had a few strays sort of pick up after we mustered pieball, and we, Ron had a couple of rougher sort of dogs, bullfrog and that, and I remember we jumped in the ute and dogs were out first. That was on the first one, and then Sean and I think got the second one, and then Ron kept going with the ute to get the next one, so we got 3 in one hit. And so that was a bit of a taste with those tougher sort of dogs as well. And then, but yeah, I'm still to this day with Wally, he sort of really imprinted with what I wanted to do and where I want to go. And I talk to Wally a lot today still, very close friends and stuff. And Wally was an amazing person. He's probably one guy that I'd recommend to go on to talk to you guys. He was an amazing person with horses, dogs, and people. He could do the whole lot. So, and he taught. Now I look back at what Wally showed us and stuff, and the patience he had. It was pretty good. So he used to refer us as cowboys, I think. Then I broke my ankle being a cowboy, and ended up with Clinton Hall. And Clinton had a lot of dogs going back to the Lithgow bred dogs, and so we got to know Clinton quite well, and up at Strathmore, and then from there we sort of, I'm not sure, we might have ended up coming home and got another injury and a bit of time getting better, and then we went back to the west with Neville Dow, so over at Sophie, and that was different again. So Sophie was probably stepping back in time, and Neville looked at things differently, and we'd still have a pack horse, we'd hobble horses out, we'd use coaches, and we'd still take dogs. So we'd sit. They'd bring cattle into us, and we'd set up a mob of cattle like a sponge, and they'd bring bulls and stuff into us, and we'd hide behind the shrubs and let the dogs have them, and then we'd sort of break them in and walk them home, usually on a full moon. We'd usually go on a full moon. So
why's that?
Because it was so far to walk.
Yeah.
So that's just like the time we'd have to wait for the moon to come up, just the distances, and the time you pick them up, and it's a lot cooler, and we'd be yarding bulls and that up at night, and it was good fun.
Wow.
And then we never had any hanging dogs whatsoever in that crew. And that was what inspired me with Nev. Like, he's a quirky sort of character, and he's probably listening, but he'll even agree with that. But he was before his time as far as like in that west, like those dogs were sitting out positioning and holding, and the way he tailed his weaners and stuff, and I don't believe he was sort of educated too much with it, but he was an amazing bushman, old school tracking and stuff like that. And like even the first day we turned up, we went out, and he said, rightio, he more or less said to Sean and I straight up, if you can't throw the bull, I'll throw it. If you can't ride the horse, I'll ride it, straight up. And then he said, right, I want to show you how to throw a bull. So we saddled up and we went up in the gorge, and sure enough, hopped off and threw one of the biggest bulls I've seen with Darren. And and that was our job. We used to get paid $10 a cow, $20 a bull, and $50 a horse we broke in, and some of them were a few brumbies that we run in and stuff like that, and usually break them in before we went out on camp, and then we'd head out on camp and hobble them out, put a few bells on at night, and off we go. And the dogs just get sore feet, but like it was hard for dogs in the Spinifex. They wouldn't keep up. Day 3 and 4, they'd be sort of coming in at night on their own, and you'd have to take them home or something. But yeah, they were very good stockmen, and Daryl's one of the best stockmen I've seen. Yeah, old school. Yeah.
You've mentioned a few different stockmen there. When was there a point in your life where you just a newfound respect for the patience they showed you? Was there a moment where you just went, "Oh, geez," like?
Well, I sort of look back at them guys now and probably appreciate them guys more now. Like, I remember even being at college with John Arnold, and he'd tell us certain things, and I'm like, I don't understand that. And then 5 years later, you'd be doing something, and then it clicks, and you're like, I understand that now. And there's stuff that those guys, they've shown me, but I've never had an understanding of why. And now I can appreciate a lot more of what I've seen and stuff, and it slows down and probably slow it down in your mind and process it, and yeah. So, but it's a big thing. I'm a big believer on having mentors and stuff like that, and that's in everyday life. Mentors in whatever business, dogs, your Christian life, whatever it might be. If you base yourself around 5, honest people, usually you'll come a reflection of those 5 people in time. And I think we are our biggest investment. So
Yeah.
it's definitely the only person I'm competing against is who I was yesterday, and to go forward. So and those guys are I've got mentors, and mentors change in time. Where you are in life, and I'm definitely big believer in sort of watching people, and even if it's not even in the dog industry, like how people run businesses in town. I've approached businesses that not even related to cattle, because I know he's a good operator, and I'll sit down and talk to him and find out what makes them tick. So it's interesting that yeah.
Sounds like a bit of NLP, mate. What is it? Neuralistic. Oh, I can't say. It's too big of words for me. But neurological linguistic programming, similar to what you're saying, right? Surround yourself around people, look at different ideas, programs, and just program ourselves.
Power of the mind.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you apply any of that to your stock work?
Oh, I guess so. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're working mind, your livestock, they're a mind on their own. So with mindsets and your dogs and stuff, you got mental pressure and physical pressure. Once you escape the mental pressure, you're into a physical barrier. So if you're working a dog in a round yard, as most people would call a training pen, I would probably, refer it as a starting pen. If they're tail turning or trying to jump out of the round yard, they're obviously escape that mental pressure into the physical, and that's that physical zone you want to try and eliminate, I believe, and keep them in the mental side. Because once you go into that physical, it'll speed up next time you go in and they tail turn or whatever it might be, or jump out of the round yard. It'll happen quicker and quicker, and your mental starts to shrink, and your physical gets quicker and quicker, if that makes sense. It's like working people. If I've got employees and I keep snapping at them, they'll just flick the bird and off they go. So, and then you've got no employees. You can't do that. You can't run a business without employees, and your dogs are the same. So I guess with the mindset, does that make sense, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, that's a big thing working livestock. Keeping them in that a good mind frame, and your dogs and horses and people and staff. It's a massive thing. And then when it comes down to the right mind frame, to me, it comes down to kilos on cattle.
Yeah.
And I believe we need to do a self-audit on ourselves, and are we doing our job? Ask ourselves, are we doing our job, or can we do it better? How can we do our job better with livestock? And what I'm saying with that is, working dogs and stuff with. If I'm selling cattle, I want to know what's happening at the other end.
Yeah.
So if how many people go and actually, go and see what's going on at the other end when they sell cattle? Where are they in their mind frame? Are they going to people that don't know how they don't have dogs and stuff like that? So I've got to prepare my cattle to be able to be worked without dogs. So the next person can work them with dogs, out dogs, horse, bike, whatever it is. The dogs are a tool to me, and I love dogs and stuff like that. But my business is first, and I had a phone call the other day. I sold 74 steers to a person I never even knew. Went 5 hours away, and they rung up and said they're the best presented cattle they've had for a long time. And when I look at that, when things tighten up again in the beef industry, I want to make sure that I'm first in line for someone to buy my cattle. I might be selling 20 or 30,000 kilo out of a truckload. Well, if they pay me another 10 or 15 cents, well, that's another bundle of cattle. So does that make sense, mate?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the investment. Like, that's an investment in yourself, in your business, but especially into your client base as well, right?
It doesn't, just because we work dogs, it's the end product. We've got to know what's happening at the other end. And you get, I've been trading a few cattle, and when they turn up, it's amazing what headspace they're in. And that headspace, can I get them out of the yard tomorrow, or is it a whole week on hay? Putting kilos on. How quick are they going to gain kilos and stress, and are your dogs holding them together with a nervous energy? Are you making the cattle doing stuff, or are you allowing them to do it? Are you bossing them? Like the dogs, are they bossing your cattle with? And you can see nervous energy. As soon as you take your dogs away, I know one crew won't get dogs in because they couldn't get them. They never done anything on foot with them. They didn't work them without dogs, and that's what I learned with going contract mustering. I get asked to go and do a job, but I can't leave my tools there for them to go and get the cattle in, and that's my dogs. So I've got to be able to, if they had the right tools, they wouldn't ring me. So I've got to leave cattle in a good headspace so that that they can get them in and try and better myself. So I spend a lot of time thinking about stuff and investing time into my own self to be able to pass that through to clients and make sure that you're getting the right article out there. But that's a big thing, I recommend everyone should go and work for other people, and then come home, and you can get lazy at home working dogs. Dogs can make people lazy, I do believe, and sit there and put the commands and stuff. The best thing you can do is go and throw some dingo baits out the back in the forestry, and then you'll work out if you've got your cattle in a good headspace, because we put baits out, we've got it. And at times, and you go and muster them and see if you can get them in. You should be able to get them without your dogs. If you're breaking them in yourself with weaners. So to me the dogs, they save us employing people and labour and stuff. They're the positives, and if you mistreat the cattle with dogs, that are sort of bossing them and really hard on them, there's a cost on that too, but it's an unseen cost. A lot of people don't see it because they don't. It's not coming out of their bank account. But if you went and wrote an invoice out and worked out that you could have more kilos on because your cattle were in a better frame of mind, invoice yourself that, then you'd probably make a change. Sometimes I believe you need another set of eyes over your business and over your livestock and over your dogs. Yeah, just fresh eyes because we get so passionate about dogs, and we get, so glued up in our little bubble. And I challenged myself there 2 years ago, and I went and done a couple of dog schools because I found a little bit something was missing. And they were terrific dog schools, but there was still something missing. I probably sat down watching people, and the biggest thing I probably got was people trying to work a dog but not understanding their livestock. So I probably would recommend people go and do a low stress stock handling school, see Chook, Tom Shepherd, Neil McDonald, Tom English, I think it is. Go and spend the time and invest time into learning livestock before you actually add the dog into the equation if you haven't started out before. And even if you have got dogs, just put the dogs to the side. And that's what I done. I went, I got told, don't use dogs for 10 days, Gav. So I was like, right. And it was a game changer.
What did you really learn from that?
That I can overuse dogs too much. The cattle need a break from it sometimes. Just probably sitting back and working out where my livestock sit in mind space, I guess, and everything's so quick these days, and just making sure they're right before I want to move them off. Movement before direction. Like, it doesn't mean that I have to go straight to the yards. It might be that I've just got to sit for a while and then poke them off. And then, and how you pick them up is probably how they'll, how your cattle will be in the yards, how they present themselves in the yard to you. So if you're chasing them around pretty hard and that, they'll probably be a bit cranky, or, the cattle don't lie. The livestock, they'll tell you exactly what your dogs are doing and what you're doing as a stock. Your cattle will tell you.
As a result of all that, did you ever sit back and have a look at it from the dog's perspective and reevaluate stuff there?
Oh, how do I say that again?
After you spent those 10 days and you thought about doing things differently and had a look at like flows and everything you just mentioned, then did you look that back and go, all right, so try and look at it through a dog's eyes a bit and have newfound like a bit more respect for your dogs?
Yeah, I have. Especially the way they're teaching us with livestock. It's not much difference to how you can present yourself to a pup in a starting program, when you all that sort of stuff. And I do think it's all related. Yeah, definitely.
Mate, I've been fortunate enough to be speaking with you for a little while now, and you're a pretty deep thinker for anyone that out there hasn't gathered that. When do you get time to sleep?
I sleep, mate. Not much, but yeah.
Like, this stuff will be going through your head all the time, right? You'd always, I'm assuming that you're someone that's always looking to, in the corporate world, they call it eliminate waste, right? Way to improve things, do things better.
Yeah. I do know my wife finds me very challenging at times, and my daughter's very similar to me. And the way we went and done a job up north, breaking, I think, 1,500 weaners or something in, and Isaac Hotz and I went up, and it was an awesome job. And I come home, and when I got home, Aaron's there and Shiloh's doing something and I'm doing something, and then Aaron's like, Gavin, Shiloh, I can't handle both of you at the same time. Like, first day she was ready for me to go, I think, and take Shiloh with her. So, but that was a good job actually, going up with Isaac. I'll tell you about that one. We went up to break in the weaners, but we ended up mustering anyway. So the weaners, so that was good. And Isaac's a champion. He's a really good mate of mine. And then they're like, "Oh, can you have the weaners out by Wednesday?" And we only had a couple of days, like bugger all. And Isaac pulled out all the lights, and we broke weaners in right through. I don't know what time it was, like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. I don't know. It was late. We done 2 nights, a couple of days, smashed it and walked them all out. And Isaac had all the lights and everything. I'm flat out turned up with a lash torch.
Did you notice a difference once the sun went down in handling stock? Did you just have to adapt at all?
Oh, I do think there is a difference. Yeah, I think cattle, like, it's amazing how what you can do at night. Yeah, on a moon and stuff. Yeah, like with bulls, and yeah, I think you can do a lot. One thing with working at night time, and my brother, he actually said about it one time, is, like, a lot of people are very controlling on dogs more than others, and he made a good quote one time: everyone should go and put cattle off the road in the dark. And why he referred to that is because when you can't see stuff, you need to learn to trust your dog.
Yeah.
You need to learn to trust your dog, and there's people that are so controlled and they can't let things go, like they're just, dog pervs sort of thing. Their eyes are just glued on the dog, but when you can't see them, you've got to trust that dog. And that's the biggest thing I find, is handing the trust over to a dog and allow them to trust. Do we allow them to trust, or do we always hold on to that? And that's one thing with nighttime, positioning yourself and trusting your dog that they're doing the right thing. So I don't do a lot at night.
How about working dogs at night? Do you see a change or feel a change in them?
I don't do like training wise and stuff. I don't train at night.
Oh no, just when you were work like breaking of night, like you notice a change in your dogs?
It's a lot cooler. It was a lot cooler than that.
It kept a steadier head.
Yeah, I reckon. I think there's, they're a lot calmer and stuff. They can be. The thing with, like, probably working fresh weaners and stuff. Why dogs have such a big effect on weaners is because they're so small. So if you've got a mob of 60 head, right, not all 60 head are going to see that dog at once. So as a person, when we stand up in a yard and you get a mob of weaners that just go and hit the end of the rails, we present ourselves across the whole mob. 90% of those cattle are probably seeing us as humans. That's why dogs have such a great effect on breaking weaners in. To humans, we can make things happen a lot quicker and move off us because the whole mobs can see more of us. And so with the nighttime side of things, maybe, they're a bit calmer because I'm not as threatening, possibly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which way to look at it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh no, I just love how deep you get into things.
What do you like? Yes, your dogs are a tool to you, but what do you love about the dogs? Like, what is it that makes you keep using them? Because yes, they're a tool, but you got to have some, like, I don't know how I'm wording this right, but it's like you've got a lot of respect for your dogs. What is it that gives them that for you?
They're just joyful to have around, and to start a little pup and take them through and see them process, and it's rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just seeing the growth, and then being able to take them out and introduce them to stock, and then go and do a job, and especially a challenging job. It's definitely it's really rewarding. So
how many hounds you got around at the moment, mate?
I have no idea. Too many. No, I haven't got that many. Yeah. I probably took about 7 the doon. 5 or 6 or something. Might take the doon and a couple of pups and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've cut the numbers back a bit.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about you. Sorry.
You can only do more. You got less work. Like, more dogs you got, you can only work them. You only got so much work. Yeah. So if you have a look at a lot of people, how many people have success with their first 1, 2, 3 dogs in the trial arena? You know, my best 3, Zach, Coop, and Tess, they're probably my most successful dogs because they got access to a lot of work, me, you know, and then you go and keep adding to it, and you see people that come back, their dogs drop off a bit, I believe, because you don't,
Yeah.
and especially with kids now, I've got 2 kids and 1 on the way, and you only can spread yourself out so much, and you know, like we were talking there this morning about like a balance, and I picture it like a triangle,
Yeah.
and that triangle sit, you know, solid on a foundation. You need every point weighted the same, or you know, within the same. So that's 33.33%. So if you go in each corner and put your business in one, your dogs in one, and your family and friends in another, it's weighted correctly. But as soon as you go and put too much energy in one side, and you might put your dogs at 50%, your business will be running at 40%. Well, before you know it, you've got 10% sitting in your family and your wife and that, and then you get cracks. So that's where I'm happy to drop back a few numbers, because the kids and business and stuff like that, I need to try and keep a balance without my business being affected and my family and stuff like that. And it's a juggling act. It's never perfect, but it's definitely something. I don't know how to explain it other than that, but that's why my numbers are sitting where they are, because I got
Yeah.
kids, and I
Yeah.
can't be there all the time with them, and
Mate,
it's not fair on them.
you're too level-headed for this industry, mate. Are you this level-headed when you got a beast running towards you?
I used to thrive on that, mate. That's my adrenaline rush.
Mate, you're right, Laura.
What were you going to say?
I was going to ask, you got a couple of your handy dogs you got there in your camp now, mate? Who are a couple of your main dogs?
Oh, Boss is, you know, Boss is a very honest dog. And I've got Shally, she's an honest dog. And then Zoe's coming through. Pixie, she's my Kelpie. Then I've got Scotty coming through, that's another Kelpie. So, yeah, they sort of complete the team for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting infiltrated, mate. The Kelpie's infiltrating your team a bit there.
Yeah, it doesn't worry me which way. I just look how they present themselves to their stock, and it was interesting with the reason I ended up with Kelpies is when a lot of people would ask me why have I got Kelpies? Have I tried it? Why have I got collies and have I tried a Kelpie? And I'm like, well, what do I think? I said, well, I can't actually make that comment until I actually get one for myself. So I went righto. So I'd done a bit of homework and seen some videos of some progeny and stuff like that, and then I booked the pup off Lily and flew it from WA back here, and it was probably the best $1,000 I ever spent. So, yeah.
And what are those differences you're seeing between the Kelpies and the Collies?
I don't think, as far as differences, I think it comes down to lines between when you got collies and kelpies. You can get the same within the both. They're just different lines of. You'll still have bark in collie. You'll still have bark in kelpies. With what I wanted with the kelpie was I wanted a lot of natural grip on their stock, very precise, and that's exactly what Pixie brought to the table. Was everything, and she doesn't bark. She was a silent dog, so that was a bonus. And yeah, she's incredible. She's actually taught me a lot, to be honest. Yeah, just how precise she is on her movement and her calming ability, and how how she presents herself to the stock, and you won't even know she's there. You can be tailing weaners, and she'll just sit, and she knows her job very well. She's an awesome little girl.
Have you got a preferred style or type of dog?
I do like a dog that with a natural roll. I don't like dogs that sort of got blinkers on and they're running past pressure points all the time. I want them to pull up on a pressure point. So probably, that medium eye on, to a little bit more eye, not too sticky. Yeah, and then when they get to a point, they're very square and hold. I like that holding ability before, that holding ability, and then that bite will come later if needed. So they present themselves and give the cow a chance. So, I think that's where, that I just see that's where we should be going in the industry, with working dogs and trying to, better the industry sort of thing.
Yeah.
With that sort of, yeah.
There's a question here from Josh Abel. What trait in a dog has the most effect on a beast in an educational manner, in your opinion?
What was that?
What trait in a dog has the most effect on a beast in an educational manner?
Hmm.
I thought you'd like this one.
Yeah, it's pretty in depth, isn't it? I reckon holding ability to start with. So the best trait. So how I present myself to the stock in the paddock is how I want the dog to present themselves. So first you got bubble, and then you got hold. You got bubble, lock, hold, neutral, move in straight direction. I think it is. So I want my dog to be aware of what's going on, and then block, hold. Yeah. So does that sort of answer it, Josh?
I think so. I think you've answered it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So they've just got to present themselves and hold with that natural grip and in a calm manner. And then if they need to bite and address the situation, well, so be it. And some people might like bark instead. And I'm not really for bark, but I can definitely understand why people have bark. And I definitely know why I don't want bark is with working in hilly country and timber country, just starting cattle up in front of me and stuff. So I just prefer to keep it quiet. And but I can definitely, I've seen a guy that actually never even probably had a dog, a work dog, and he was the one that pointed it out one time when I was in the West, and his name was actually Murray. And we were there, and my dogs were sort of more bite, where the other crew was the Kelpies were sort of in and barking, nip nip bark, and he made a good point where he just said, "Oh, bugger you, Gav, you'll get too many vet bills with them dogs. I got the same job done, but the barking dogs they were sort of rougher type cattle and a lot of horn, and yeah, it took fresh eyes for me to understand that."
Mm-hmm.
And he was not, and a complete outsider, probably didn't know a lot about dogs whatsoever. And I went, yeah, that's a fair point. It's like, so I can definitely understand why bark is useful. And that was a Glenn Flory actually, yeah. And he is a smart operator in everything. That guy, like he's a man. If he says something, you pay attention, you listen. He's a very switched on man. Yeah. So wonderful fellow, actually.
Actually, talking about you're mentioning like flighty stock there. I remember a while ago, you and I had a conversation with flighty stock about you don't mind moving them in the right direction to settle them, to then move them back in the right way. Do you want to talk us through that process?
Yeah, if you run across cattle that are quite touchy or something like that, sometimes I might go with them. Like, yeah, you might go a complete different direction for a little while before you actually turn around and come back the other way. If I need to do that to settle cattle, especially clean skins, like, you know, we could go one way, right up in the hills, and yeah, unless they're right, you'll end up back there. Like if you don't get them right before the yard, you will end up back where you started, if not blown. So you sort of go with them and possibly hugging trees nearly on the way, staying out of sight. And Sean was a bit of a guru at that one. My brother, he's up north at Christobal, and he's probably not using the dogs as much this year. He's down on dogs. He's lost a lot, but what he's done up there and sitting up in the tree with ropes and panels, and he'd go out and sit in the tree from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock. Just he'll trap cattle in a big round dam and put the dogs out and break them. You know, they're sort of ghost sort of cattle, and he'll just break them in and sit up in the tree and then pull a rope when they're right. Yeah, I thought that was fair effort to 1 o'clock. I seen photos of the bull. They're pretty impressive, but yeah, he sort of Sean's a guru at that. What he does up there, it's amazing. And I've seen him, worked alongside him doing Auburn Falls, and we got a lot of cattle out of there and a few other little jobs, and but yeah, definitely if you got to go with them, and you just got to forget about take your watch off. Time's got to. And I've started cattle and just left them too. If I've needed to, I'll just walk away. As long as I leave them, how you leave them is probably how you'll find them next time. So that's working a few bulls and that, and Danny Hayes actually taught me that. Yeah, we'd start them up. We were at Wave Hill, and he'd always take one of us up in the chopper to start cattle and show us how he wanted cattle started. And I remember going up with him, and we're mustering the river, the Vic River, and we had a few bulls coming out, and we started them up, and they were laying down, and we persevered, and then we just left the bull. We got a win, got him moving off, and we left him. And Dan's like, we won't get him back to the yard, but we'll educate him while we're going, because next time he might be there, and we'll pick him up, and it'll be a lot easier. He'll come in with some cows. So if you run out of time and that, I've done that a few times. Just leave a mob if I know I'm not going to get them back. Just spend the time with them. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's mad. I know we touch base on that.
But yeah, I don't do a lot these days. But Sean's he's the one that talked to about that stuff. I'll leave that one for him.
Very cool, mate. And you mentioned a few dogs there earlier. Do you believe there's what would some of your most influential dogs be to get you to where you are today?
Oh, Zach was a good dog. Zach and Coop and Tess, they're sort of my foundation line, and just sort of work with what I've got. I don't like chopping and changing a lot. You see that probably a lot in the industry now. People chop and change, and you see something else on Facebook, and they got to have this dog and a UK dog, and really they probably just get people can get confused a lot with social media and dog movers and everything. Sometimes I wonder if we've got too much access to everything when we've probably got it right there at home. We just got to put the time into it and bring it through. So that's where with Zach and that, I just, I was content with them, and I was happy, and I was within that line. And then I've just started to add a few outcrosses here and there, fresh blood and stuff, and trying a few things, and some don't work and some do, and yeah.
So, question: have you used any of the UK stuff in your lines?
I've got one. Yeah, I have. Yeah, I bred to one dog, Reese. That was years ago, and Annie was an honest little dog. Yeah, and very, probably more suited for trialing and that, but still in the paddock, she was good. She's actually, I got rid of Annie. She's sort of hitting that age bracket, and someone wanted to get started, so I let her, moved her on, sort of thing, to get someone else started in the dogs, and then I've got a Moss pup there now, so I'll just see how they go, how they sort of go. I don't know a lot about them. I've done a lot of looking and watching and stuff like that, and Yeah.
When you're looking, you're right, Laura. Go.
That's all right. I don't want to piss anyone off by asking this question, but
Oh, you're right.
the UK lines to me is more sheep orientated. Why are you cattle guys going to them when they're not working their dogs with cattle? What is making you guys go to those lines?
The reason I went, I'm not going to talk on it behalf of other people. The
Yep.
reason I went to Moss is because I've seen a few pups and a few videos on how he presented himself on stock, on a cow, on some
Yep.
cattle, private messages.
Yep.
He worked very similar to Zach in certain ways. His first movement in, out, and down, just out the side. I do see a lot of UK dogs sort of driving, and you start a pup and they sort of cut them out, and there's traits I'm very cautious of. And I'm just I've got to be careful what I say.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's why I sort of.
But
I wasn't sure whether to ask or not, but
I had
yeah,
a red dog the other day at home, and I was having trouble, with some cows, or not so much trouble, just it's all pulled country and just to get around a few. And I had a young fella there, and he had a UK sort of bred dog, and that dog just took him up the road and just kept him going.
Yeah.
And it's only a young dog, so as far as training side of things, that dog was working on genetics straight away, and it just took him, and I couldn't get around the cattle.
Yeah.
I had a lot of trouble, and I had to get him to get his dog away, and he drove him away from what we were doing. And that dog was only 12 months sort of thing. So to me, that was genetics.
Yeah.
And so I'm very, the reason I sort of selected Moss was just specific movements and stuff, and to complement Zach, so I can bring Zach Seaman back in because I need an outcross. See, the reason with line breeding and stuff, you can sort of lose them in the mines. You might have workability, but you can lose that mine. And I want good minded dogs. A lot of people are doing schools and stuff, and those dogs got to be able to handle a little bit of training and stuff. That everyone wants to train a dog, and so I've added Moss in to try and add a better mind frame as well, and his DNA was what I wanted as well. So that suits. That was another tick in the box, and then I'll just go through and see how they go. But I can see a difference, but I do like them. And one thing with Annie, she was probably the first one to come back to me. If I had cattle go, she'd sort of come looking for me a bit. She wanted to be told what to do.
Yeah.
That concerned me a lot with the UK's. Sort of, they like to be controlled. Where say Kelpie people, they probably, you see a lot of people up north with Kelpies or big cruiser Kelpie dogs, and they work more on the natural side of things and positioning themselves to suit the dogs. Where I see people probably with UK bred dogs, the trialing side of things, they probably dictate on what they want to do more so. Maybe, if that makes sense without,
Yeah.
Yeah, set and forget. Like, those natural dogs are just out there, and you're not talking to them.
There is one guy with collie dogs that Tim Flynn, he works very natural. He's one of the, I don't know if he's got a Kelpie, but for collie dogs, he's one of the best stockmen I've seen as far as big mobs, settling stock, patience, horses, dogs, cattle, and he's definitely up there, yeah. And
he's on fire. You've mentioned a whole heap of different names today, or this evening at stock work. Do you believe a lot of that comes natural, or do you believe you can be taught a lot as well, coming from someone that grew up in town yourself?
Depending on your attitude, number one.
Fantastic.
If you want to do it, there's a difference in wanting and willing. And we've had this conversation, Tim and I. A lot of people want to do stuff, but are they willing to do it?
Yeah.
And I want a dog that's willing. So when I say that, a dog that sits in the back of the cage and they want to come forward and they keep sitting at the back of the cage and you're like, come on, mate, come forward, I'll give you a pat. They want to come. Well, I want the dog that's willing, that's got their head against the mesh, the ear out the side, like, give me a scratch. And those dogs that sit at the back, the day you hop on the motorbike, they probably do 2 circles around the bike. I want to hop up. I want to hop up. I want the dog that's hopping up, nearly knocking you off.
Yeah.
So that's willingness.
Yeah.
And that'll come through later on in work. The dogs that'll let you down, the willing ones that'll probably be there at the end of the day. And so anyway, that's something I'll work on. Tim and I had a great conversation about it. He's the one that told me, and mate told him, and yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
So what are you looking for? You mentioned line breeding a couple of times.
Yep.
Do you like the line breeding? Is that what you follow, or are you just looking for 2 similar dogs? What are you thinking about when you're joining a bitch and a dog?
I think line breeding definitely has a place. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I think you got to know when to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you got to, try things and you got to try a few things here and there, but definitely knowing when to get out and stuff and keeping that mind right. That's one of the things you see with people at line breed. You might have all the workability, but their minds aren't quite right. That'll be one of the first traits you probably lose.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing with kids and stuff like that. There's no place. There's no place for bad minds, dogs that bite and stuff. I won't have it. I won't have it. Sort of now I've got kids and stuff like that. I've got a few little do's and don'ts and being able, with these auctions and stuff like that, selling dogs on. So, we just got to be mindful that they've got to go to the next person and they've got to be able to settle in. So, that's another reason with, say, I'm bringing Moss in to try and keep a cool mind, because they'll, no different to buying trade cattle and stuff, knowing what your clients, what they're buying off you, because you want them to come back.
Yeah.
And they pay the money. You definitely, they've got to get something out of it too. They've got to go and do a job.
Yeah.
So yeah, they can't have trouble trying to catch a dog and that. So definitely can line breed, but yeah, make sure you sort of know when to get in and get out, and do a bit of homework and talk to someone that probably knows a lot more about it. So,
yeah. And on that, Will Hogan actually asked, just as we started talking about, how do you determine when you need to bring in an outcross? But you've already answered that. So,
well, I've bred dogs before, and you think, yep, that's going to work, and
yeah,
it just wasn't what I was after. And yeah, you only fail if you don't try. So don't be scared. A lot of people go, "Oh, that didn't work," and it doesn't matter. It's how how you move on from that.
Yeah,
that's what really matters. So absolutely. I don't lose sleep over that. You just, and a lot of people say, "Don't do this, don't do that." So just
have a crack.
You don't let someone ruin your dreams. Yeah, it could work. If it doesn't, it's fine. You learn something out of it, and you store it all up in your brain, and like dogs in what I've got stored away with pedigrees and stuff and DNA, and you can look at a pedigree and try and put it together. And if you can't work it out, you ring Isaac Hotz and he'll tell you. So.
But while we're talking about breeding here, cartoon genetics. What is it about breeding in general that does it? Whether it's cattle and dogs, what is it that works for you? Obviously, you got a passion for it.
Well, the reason cartoon genetics come up, because we had, with the cattle and that, trying to come up with something on my shirt, and I was like, that's a lot of writing. And that's what I was like, I was just going cartoon genetics, and, Even got cartoon chooks. I've got a rooster for sale too, by the way.
Just give that one a plug.
Trying to sell his cock on national bloody Q&A. So what is it about breeding, mate? That does it. What makes you tick? What is it?
Well, I think breeding, for starters, it's no different to a tradesman building a house. You know, what sort of tools do you have?
The best ones.
You want the best tools. Milwaukee, you know?
Yeah.
And why not have the best?
Yeah.
Makes your job a lot easier. And if you're into horses, right, you know, nothing like riding a nice horse.
Yeah.
And if you're sort of working with genetics,
you're already a step in front in some ways.
Well, you breed consistency, you consistency a lot, and when you look into genetics, you sort of can gauge on what you possibly might be going to get, and you're selling cattle. You know, I just love the industry side of things. Like dogs are part of the industry. You know, I love the industry of what we have, and yeah, we've got Sussex. You know, and the reason I got them is for the kids.
Yeah.
They give us eggs. They go over. It's responsibility.
Yeah.
Charlo's 4 and Sydney's 2, and they're bringing eggs in, and you'd be surprised how many they're broken. But they go and get the eggs, and I've got really nice chooks there, and then we go and put them in the Dubra show, and it teaches them responsibility. It teaches them to look after their animals, how to present them, and stuff like that. And you know, they won't know any different. Like, you just plant a seed early. They've got a responsibility. They've got to feed them. They've got to water them. The dogs knock them over a bit. Like, you got to watch, you know, pups jumping up and a bit scratchy, and show cattle and that. They're not at the right age. But I tell you what, the chooks are terrific. But the rooster gives Charlotte a bit of a recipe. It's vicious. We had that's not the one I'm selling, but
I was about to ask.
I
was about to ask. Is that why he's for sale?
He's all right with kids above 10-year-old.
Yeah. So
that's genetics, sort of.
Yeah.
And we're providing a product, you know, and that we're feeding people and meat on tables, and what more do you want in life? Like, you know, I reckon that's really nice. If someone comes around to home, and I'll never let anyone bring food to my house. I'll always feed people here. You know, I reckon that's a privilege to be able to give someone a feed and stuff like that, and that's why I love the dogs and the horses and the cattle, you know, and what we do. So,
do you have like a long-term plan with it all or anything?
Long-term plan.
With your genetics.
I've always got things, you know, that I want to do, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you tonight.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
You don't go to the pub and tell people what you're doing. You go.
Well, on that note, there's a question here from Pat Dwyer. It says, "Hey Gavin, could you give us some insight into your pup starting process for cattle work?"
Pup starting, so not pup selection. We'll go pup starting. So what I'd probably do, I start them at 12 weeks old. So I used to start them as young as I could, and it doesn't. I find 12 weeks is a nice age. They're getting a bit more leg, and I'll get a rag on a stick, and I'll start them on that, so I get them sort of clicked on with that, you know, and then steady, and then I'll hold it and get it, and you can actually start sort of picking your pups to how they break out and they hold that rag, and I'll start. That's the first thing I'll do for selection, and then I'll go down to the sheep, and I put them down onto the sheep. I've probably only got 3 or 4. I don't swap over sheep or anything. I've just got me sheep, and if they last 5 years, they last 5 years. I don't need fresh sheep. It doesn't faze me. one bit. And what I'd probably do is put them down. Once they, hook on, I like me dogs to get in tune with me. So, say it's called a training pen, I'd probably call it a starting pen straight away. A lot of people, it's like just go and train a dog. A lot of people will go down to train a dog. Those pups don't need training at that age. They just need guiding. I want to see what purpose they have. I want to see their makeup. I want to see the genetics come out, and then I start weighing up exactly if it's going to stay in my program or not. So the training side of things doesn't get included for a little while because I don't need to be training certain things out when I can select a lot of stuff. So when the pup sort of really starts to go, I'll back myself up to the pennant and I'll get the dog to start rating their stock. So if I move 2 steps, I want my dog to move 2 steps. If I stop, I like them to stop. If I've got a really calm dog, I'll try and get them to pick their energy up a bit. If I've got a dog that's a little bit more goey, I will sit there and work it until they start to yawn and possibly even sit on the ground. And a lot of people would argue the point with that one and go, oh, you've got to get a pup out straight away. And I've had people tell me you're working them too long. The reason I will challenge a pup and a dog and I will work them further is because if I treat it to how I pick cattle up on a dam or wherever it is in the paddock. If I walk up, I don't want dogs going fast. They've got to be able to present themselves and hold stock. And so I don't want a dog going lunging round, over, running past pressure points, faster, hard sits, stuff like that. I don't want any of that for a long time. I want balance, I want hold, and I want them to approach their stock in a calm way, and that's through feet movement. If I move, they move. If that makes sense. If I walk them, they give ground, and then I get them to balance. A lot of. It's amazing how many dogs don't balance correctly. I reckon balance is a big thing for me. Balance. And then I'll work on a sit, like a dry sit up at the house or something. And depending on what sort of nature dog, how I go about sitting a dog, like if they're like quite bold sort of dog, I might put them on the ground. If they're a timid sort of dog or not, I might sit them on their tail sort of thing. And how you pat a dog, like if they're timid, I'll pat them underneath. If they're dominant, I'll pat them over the top of their eyes a bit more so. And when I go down and approach that sit on later on the sheet, instead of saying like I'll just go about what I do, and I still probably haven't got a round or an over or nothing, I'll sit the dog, and then when I engage the dog out of the sit, I'll just go ch-ch, and that lifts them up out of the sit, and your dog's got natural feel and that natural grip, where I see a lot of pups get pushed around, or younger dogs round, over, getting lunged. And if I teach that dog to go round to start with, they take that cue, but they'll run past pressure points and they actually, I don't feel they're properly connected. So I teach that dog to come out of the sit to be engaged with their stock, like a and that just lifts them straight out of the sit and they'll be engaged. And then I might ask them for a round. So they're always engaged. I don't want to be pushing them out, sort of thing. All the time. And I don't really do a lot of training on the sheep. And then I just grow them up, put them on cattle later on. And I think it's the little things too with pups, like taking them on the bike and getting them jump on the bike and making sure, like even the side by sides, and jump them in the back. Don't jump them through the front because they learn to jump through on the seat and into the back, and they take your kids out. Little things like that, and tying them up. in the back of those buggies. Don't tie them up so their feet sit on the side. You teach your dogs to put their feet on the side. You'll end up losing one, or their collar comes undone. They lean on the collar. Always tie them in so their feet can't. So when they get older and they're not tied in, they're not standing up on the side. They're little things you learn from mistakes that I've probably made. And you see a dog hanging out the side and they're balancing. It's probably because I've tied them too close to the side as a pup, and they learn to balance on it. So don't allow them to do that. So they're just little things that I just look at, and when I start them on stock, I won't sort of use fresh weaners so much anymore with pups. I used to be just whatever, just throw them out, but I find pups can mess up your weaners. Like, unless your cattle are forgiving and know what you want, don't confuse them.
Mm-hmm.
When you've got a young dog that possibly might know what they're doing, you can put them out. If your cattle are forgiving and they know what the routine is, your training mob, they know how to pick up and draw to you, that, that's what you want in case they make mistakes. But you put them on fresh weaners that don't know nothing, you can create a lot of fear within those cattle too. So I do, that's something that I've been looking at lately, is how, how my weaners are sort of going, where they're sitting, and but with the probably pup selection, I'll go into that. How I do.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you. Probably touched on a bit of it, but how? Yeah, do you want to tell us a bit about your pup selection?
Does that answer old mate's question enough with how I start a pup? Possibly.
I think so.
Probably so. Yes, mate.
Right out. One thing I do look for in a pup, at 10 to 12 months of age, I run them down to the yard. It's about a K, and there's a trough behind the house. At some stage, them pups, I'll give them the opportunity, when I'm running them, they have to go and pick up cattle at some stage. If I'm running the dogs past cattle, if they're 50 metres or 20 metres, those pups at 10, 12 months of age, that's when I'll start introducing them to livestock. If they don't leave, even if I let them out at the kennels at Doon Doon and there's cattle at the back, if they don't leave me at some stage and their instinct doesn't override me, I'll allow it. I don't go calling them back. I'll get rid of the dog because of it.
Yeah.
That's one thing I want to see them, that instinct override me by running after the motorbike and veer off and go and pick up the cattle. And the moss pup done it the other day, and I was like, that's good. She's done it 3 times. And once I start seeing cattle, I'll pull up and I start putting them on the bike so they don't, and then I'll go and introduce them myself. And the reason I do that is because I want finding ability. It's probably something a lot of people don't look for anymore, and it's probably getting harder to find. It's dogs that use their nose, and you watch them and stuff. And I want dogs to think, to go out on their own accord. If they keep tracking me, I guarantee when something's not right, they'll come and find me all the time. I want them to go out, and that's the best thing, to see how they present and go around and hold. You see them in the natural thing. So that's something I do like, and I do allow them to do it. If I see a mob of steers and they're all broke at Doon Doon, it's not, it's not the end of the world. So, but if they're any younger, like 6 or 8 months, and I know they're not ready for it, I'll always pull up, put them on the back of the bike. If I'm running them, I don't, I will look after them in that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have got rid of one dog because he wouldn't leave me. He was too glued onto me, and he would have made the best trial dog going. But just as far as my criteria for what we do, and it just wasn't going to fit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you go.
Yeah, the pup selection is, you get a lot of people ring up and ask for a pup, and they go, have you got a pup for sale? And a lot of people probably don't even know what they're after in a pup. And if I was looking for a pup, I would go and actually go and see the parents work 12 months or 2 years beforehand. But I'd also watch how the people work their livestock themselves. That's to see what sort of operation they're running. I want to see how their dogs are presented to their stock and how the cattle present to the dog, and how that person, what sort of operation is he probably running, how does he work his livestock, what sort of country does he work in. You know, I sort of weigh up that sort of thing as well. Because you can just buy a pup anywhere off the internet now, and Facebook and dog movers, and you just get them sent up, and you know, so it's hard with overseas. Obviously, it's a bit harder, but they're the things that I'd probably look at now if I was, yeah.
And on from that, Tracy Huxtable from the UK, she's asked, what is a move when you start them at 12 weeks? Sorry, I'll start again. At 12 weeks, when you first put them on stock, is there ever something when you first just go, that pup isn't for me, or do you give them a few looks and then decide sort of whether you go on with them or not?
So what do I look for when I'm like choosing a pup at 12 weeks?
Yeah, that, and more so like when you first put them on, do you ever think this pup isn't going to suit me and move it on soon after, or do you let them grow out a bit and give them a few more goes before you decide that?
Well, you can't keep them all, number one.
Yeah.
And you can have ability, unless you've got attitude to take to the field, you've got nothing.
Yeah.
So attitude also, it's like playing football. See a lot of talented football people with the wrong attitude on the field. Can't win. So something to look at. If I was going to get rid of a dog, I'd go and put it in a cage away from the other dogs. And then if you go and get that dog, you obviously need it for a job or whatever. Just, and also see what the how the other crew of dogs react. Usually, if I got rid of a dog, is sometimes because of camp manners as well.
Yeah.
I got rid of one of my best dogs I ever owned, Belle, because of her camp manners. She was picking fights with Tess, and that was she had to go because she was throwing the camp out.
Yeah.
So that's, and that, you know, I'll make the God, he's happy, and you just move on. Like you can't. Sometimes you got to leave emotions out of it to make decisions. Make, you know, when emotions attached, you can, you know, it can cloud your decisions a bit. So you got to cut your emotions, sort of thing. And I was like, right now, you got to go. You fight and test, and I'd go and put a dog away over in another cage, and just see how the crew interacts and what dog's throwing out the dogs, or you know, if I feel something's not right, and just in case you make the wrong decision. You know, I had made the wrong decision before, and that's why I choose to put them in another cage away, or I leave them in town with Aaron, and I'll go to Doon. One of the things I do like with a pup is that, to answer that lady's question, I'm just trying to think of it, but I just want attitude. It's got to be right, and then the workability and how they present to their, you know, to the sheep. And sometimes I'll keep the litter to 12 weeks and then start them.
Yeah.
So, but I'll watch them as little pups. So if I hear one squeaking too much, I'll go and have a look which one it is. You know, I might put them on the ground and just take note which pup is the first one mum picks up and stuff like that. She'll probably pick the most dominant sort of pup up and put back in the cage and stuff, you know, that natural sort of stuff. I'll just take note. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about evaluating your team? How often would you evaluate your own team?
Do an audit.
Yeah, do an audit, basically. Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
I think we've got to do an audit on ourselves too.
Yeah.
You know, we stand, and that's why I say getting fresh eyes in over what you do, and keep you honest. But
how often would you do that?
probably every day.
Yeah.
Every day, I
Yeah.
watch everything, and I
Yeah.
remember everything from a pup, how they start, because it usually comes out at the end. I don't make excuses for them. A lot of the time we can go, oh, but I've done this, and it's like probably just making an excuse. It's probably, what it is what it is. You either want it or you don't, and you just
Yeah.
wait what you want. Yeah.
There's a,
You're right, Laura.
I was just gonna say you go, but that's all right. You go.
Here you go.
Have you got some time to talk us through your criteria there, mate, and how you go about evaluating? I know it's pretty in depth little system you got there.
Well, it's probably something that try and help people, like younger people and people getting started in dogs, with going to and from. That's and I sort of, it was a bull selection thing, is setting, a bar from 1 to 10, and you got your mode at 5. So 1 being a soft dog with a lot of eye, and herd to 10 being possibly a very tough, very tough dog. And when you want to breed, a lot of people say, "Oh, we want something really tough." But if you go to 10, you lose a lot from the bottom end. But 5 is in the middle. That's your mode. So what I would do is, right, I want strength. I'll go between 5 and 10, maybe 7, and you just move your bar over, and then you select a dog in between, so you still have your herding ability and stuff like that. And by going from one end to the other end, you can lose a lot of consistency in the dog, and everyone knows how hard it is to breed consistent litters. You get 6 pups, they're not all the same, they don't all turn out. So it's a hard job to get consistency, let alone going from one end to the other. So that's something I just sort of, I'd have to put it on paper, but if you keep just shifting that bar, and so does that make sense, Dan?
Yeah.
But if anyone's confused with that, just ring me, and I'm quite happy to go through it. Yeah. So there's a bit more to it, but I'll just leave it there to give you an idea. Yeah.
Yeah. There's been a few questions come through, so I'll just ask a couple of them here. Nikki West has actually asked, do you communal feed or feed them individually, and why?
So I feed them individually, and possibly because I'm at Doon and I'm at home, I've got to drive an hour each way. So I choose to. I don't have the time to sit there, really, to be honest. Very time poor.
Yep.
Community feeding. If you can do it, I'd do it. Yeah, I reckon it stops the bickering, and definitely, I'd go that way if I could. Yeah, it's just the time factor for me. It just driving in and out of Doon, and I've got a fair bit going on, and it's just feed the biscuits and sort of go, and then I've got to come to town, and I've got to sort some stuff in here, dogs in here out, or whatever it might be. So, if that answers it for you, yeah.
Ben Gould's asked, are there any current influential Australian sire dogs that you like?
Was that Ben Girl? There is a dog called Jake that's breeding on really well. He's a crossbred, probably a bit of heel. So, no, there definitely is. There is dogs breeding on, and obviously a lot of people know about Woodford Jack, and he's doing a wonderful job, with what I've seen up in Queensland for the cattle side of things, and there's other dogs like Rip, and every 10 years you sort of get 2 or 3 dogs that really impact. They'll be at their later years that'll come through, and they're nearly gone, and everyone wakes up and starts seeing progeny. But I'd work on 3 every 10 years, sort of come through, and then there's always younger dogs coming through. They just haven't proven themselves. But Jack's definitely doing a good job. I've got pups there by Jack at the moment, and looking forward to starting those and see if I can get something to move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Cool, mate. We mentioned trialing a little bit earlier. How long have you been trialing?
I'd say it started possibly, I don't know, 13 or 15 years ago. Possibly, yeah. I couldn't really. I'd have to ring up Elizabeth Hughes and ask her. She'll know.
What was the driver behind that? Behind starting trialing?
Warren Baton. Well, Sean started trolling first, to be honest. Yeah, he had a few goes, and then yeah, I think I might have been mining or something then, and then I come home and yeah, I got Zach and Tess and went to Bell. Bell was my first trial.
Yeah.
So, and I never had sides, I never had a sit, nothing. I just thought I'd turn up and have a go, and yeah, just went from there. So and it's not I really enjoyed it. It's, the people and that there's that's probably more where I'm at now. If I go to a trial, is just to catch up with people.
Yeah.
And the level of trolling sort of stepped up quite a bit. If you want to be in a final, you got to really get onto your dogs and have them pretty precise with everything. And that's probably maybe not my area. I'd probably choose not to. I don't want the dogs on a string sort of thing. It's sort of something I lean away against for now. So yeah, I just want them working more naturally and just what they do, and yeah.
Have you tried any sheepdog trialing at all?
Barely work sheep, mate.
Yeah.
I've only ever seen probably one when we were at
Yeah.
10. It's something I actually want to go and muster wild goats, to be honest. That's yeah. I actually were talking. Aaron and I were talking. That's something. It's on the cards. In the next 12 months or 2 years, we'll see how we go. But I spoke to a really good friend and to tee up to go and work in the sheds and stuff with just something different. Because I went over to New Zealand, looked at dogs over there, and that was pretty cool with what they do. I thought that was great, and just a bit of a challenge to go down and have a look. Yeah, that run on, get them run on the backs, and I just like my cattle.
Yeah. Do you have a favourite trial or one you've done good at consistently?
I don't do that well. I can do that very consistently. Not favourite trial. Not really.
Yeah.
They're all got 3 head usually and an obstacle and
Yeah.
same people and just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
There's possibly some better ones to start younger dogs if to create a good experience. Rothman Springs is always on us, and I think Bohemia, it's a bigger course. Dave Steele and that, they do a tremendous job out there, Dave, and that. And he's actually one fella's doing a really good job on a breeding program. He knows what he's doing and putting, I've got a lot of respect with people that do have a criteria and trying to breed a line of dogs. Yeah, he's doing a good job. But other than that, they're all the same, really. Yeah.
And on that, for someone that doesn't do real good, have you got a special moment or an achievement that is memorable?
I've got a few, but yeah.
One that stands out?
I'm marrying my wife and 2 kids.
Oh, there you go.
I'm not even. Yeah, I don't. I've won a couple of things, but Ted's right at a few, but I'd have to. Yeah, not too worried about it. I don't
is Aaron standing on the other side of the table there, just looking at you, going, "Right answer"?
No, Tess done all right, and Zach done well in certain ways, and yeah, but they're just sort of ribbons and stuff. I find, my biggest achievements more when someone rang me the other day to tell me my cattle were presented well.
Yeah.
that's the blue ribbon in my eyes.
Yeah.
You know,
Cool.
that's you know, when I can go and get a mob of cattle in, and you get a phone call to someone can't do it, and you can go and give them a hand and put them in. So that's why I don't really want to go there with ribbons and stuff. And you know, a lot of people get sort of stuck on that, and even selecting dogs in the UK, you know, why they select a dog, and usually they won this supreme and that supreme, and at the end of the day, you can't bring the trainer over with them, so you don't know really what you're getting. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
So I don't get caught up in it, and that's not being nasty to anyone. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair enough. Question here from Rick Freeman. Would you like to see dogs working in pairs at trials as a special skill or trial? He's heard it used to happen many years ago.
Can you repeat that? That didn't come through real clear.
That's all right. Rick asks, would you like to see dogs working in pairs at trials as like a special skill or class? He's heard this used to happen many years ago.
I like working two dogs at once and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's room for growth in all different things.
Great answer.
That's
I
good.
definitely went to America and spent 3 days at the Steamboat Springs looking at the championships, and I've seen a lot of different things, and yeah, there can be change definitely.
Yeah.
With what we're doing up here, and they're doing a terrific job up here. I'm not gonna mock them on that or anything like that. But,
Yeah.
I do believe there is a calling to start looking at different things and change in a positive way. And some of these trialers that are getting around, such good dog handlers probably want to be challenged more. And probably what I notice, I'd probably prefer a bit more stockmanship added into trialing, because
Mhm.
you know we stand on a peg, and you know there's two types of ways pressure can be released. It's either the stock leaves us or we leave the stock. When you're stuck on a peg, there's not a lot of breathing space for cattle. And what I've seen in America was quite interesting, where they draft one out. You know, they might be on a horse and stuff like that. That you know, putting them through pens without gates, and yeah, just stuff like that. Yeah, I definitely think there's room for growth. Yeah, but what it's it's working for these guys at the moment, and I don't doubt there'll be change down the track. But you know that takes time and committees to come together and stuff, and people to put their heads together and work together to do it. So yeah.
Mate, for someone as well travelled as yourself and being a contractor, seeing different stock, is there any time here in Australia where you just look at the way people handle their stock and just like, wow, like we can do this better?
Say that again.
You're pretty well travelled, right, overseas and contracting, seeing different stock and different trials and whatnot. Do you ever look at the way we handle, well, just a general question, people handle stock over in Australia and go, wow, we can do things better? Or we're stuck
I think,
in
I think the stockmanship in Australia is probably, you know, there's some really good stockmen around.
Yeah.
Like the beauty with the stockmen in Australia, if you want to go to the territory or north, you can work big mobs.
Yeah.
And with what I've seen in America, definitely good stockmen, very good horsemen. I think their horsemanship's amazing.
Yeah.
With roping and stuff and doctoring I think they're terrific with the dog side of things. I do think they're very controlling sort of people with their dogs, like lay down, walk up, lay down, bite, sort of, everything's controlled. Where you sort of work in big mobs over here, you let your dogs work probably a bit more natural.
Yeah, beautiful.
And, but I can't really talk with New Zealand because it's just sheep. I don't know enough to comment with that side of things, but
Yeah.
we've probably got some of the best stockmen in the world, to be honest, with what I've seen. You know, and you don't get clean skinned bulls just anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot up north and stuff, and this fella's been putting them in the yards for years and years and doing it without dogs. So I think we're pretty advanced, to be honest. Yeah.
And put it this way, do you think that there might be an art that we're losing?
Helicopter stuff, you know, there's probably more of that. It's a lot quicker, less staff. So, and also, you know, mum and dad probably encouraging kids to go and do trades.
Yeah.
And education, a lot of people probably left at 14 or 15 and went to a cattle station. That's all they knew, and they're probably still on the cattle station as a grader driver now. So, yeah, possibly, yeah. It's definitely with the horse side of things, and because it's all sort of connected. You know, how I work a pup, sort of how I work horses, similar as well, like yearlings and stuff. It's all the same, and yeah, I do think we possibly could be losing a bit of it. Yeah, but there is one thing we didn't have years ago is the education we do now too.
Yeah.
So you do have to move on with the times, and you do have to, you know, you got to move on with the times. You can't live, you know, 20 years ago. You got to keep moving forward. Like if the industry likes to look at the Angus cattle now, you know, flatbacks. If you're in my area where if you're not running flatback sort of cattle, where you sort of get left behind, if that makes sense. So the education we've got a lot of people doing schools and stuff as well, and I think there's a lot of young people with the really good attitudes that they want to learn, you know, or willing to learn, not just wanting it, willing. Because I've got a good mate, Jamie Starrick, and he's doing a tremendous job with his, you know, schools and that. I couldn't tell you how many he's done. I've went and done one, and like I started with Jamie, and he's would have put a lot of people through. You know, Paul Rowe, Stevie Elliott, Stan Hughes. He's a guy that sits under the radar. He's a clever man. So I think the education side of things, it's out there where we probably never had that years ago. You know, you had to learn on the job. So you can. So if you want to go and learn, you can go and pay the money, school yourself up. I'd definitely lean towards learning how to work livestock first before a dog. That'd be number one. Go and then add the dog into it, because it's very confusing for someone that's working a dog and doesn't understand their stock on how they move and stuff. So just that's the biggest thing. Yeah.
What advice would you give to any young fellas out there that wanted to have a crack in the livestock industry? How would they go about getting a start?
Just having the right attitude and making those phone calls to Pacific people they need to, and they'll direct you wherever they need to go. Creating mentors, so watch people and get a couple of mentors and to help you through. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing. And like I just said, just with get to know your livestock and then add the dog into it and enjoy it. So.
And you mentioned a few people tonight. Is there anyone you'd suggest us really sitting down and having a chat with on Dog Talk?
I guess Wally McDonald would be probably a good start.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
He's just an all-round sort of cowboy sort of guy, and Clinton Hall would be interesting.
Yep.
He'd have plenty to say, Clinton.
Yes.
You wouldn't get a word in with him.
You're a good bloke.
I reckon that Tom Shepherd, because I know, like, he was in the territory. He had dogs and stuff, but he'd be a very interesting sort of, yeah, he'd be a pretty good one too. So,
Yeah.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Mate, that time of the night, was there a question that stood out to you tonight, and they will win a bag of Enduro Punji food for working dogs with Real Kangaroo, mate?
mate, I've got no idea. You pick one out.
Was it, don't worry about names, but
One of the girls, I think.
yeah. That would have been Nikki West. She's the only one in Australia, so that's Nikki. Well, I've got Nikki's details, so all good there. And
Congratulations, Nikki. Got a bag of Enduro coming your way. And Gav, thanks for being on tonight. Also a bag of Enduro coming your way as well, mate.
Thanks, champ. You can keep it, buddy.
No. That's not what it's about.
Righto, send it up.
We will.
we will, don't worry. Thank you for being so honest tonight and letting us in to like inside of you and your opinions.
In the depth.
What was that?
In the depth that you go into as well, mate. I appreciate our chats all the time.
Yeah,
like, it's really getting the depth to explain.
Foreign questions, but yeah.
One last question: would you rather fight one duck the size of a horse, or 20 horses the size of ducks?
I'd probably go the horses because I know Shiloh likes unicorns. If she was awake at the moment, she'd have to go that way.
Yep.
So,
beautiful.
Gonna go with the unicorns. Okay.
There we go.
Fantastic, mate. Thanks again. Once again, thanks for your time and all our viewers out there. Thanks for all tuning in tonight. And please remember, we learn every day, and the day we stop learning will be a sad one for all of us.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it, eh?
Yeah, thank you for coming on. We appreciate your time. So it's been good.
Good night.
Thanks, mate.
See you, bud.